shit you fucking with, man? I'm Tony Montana!
Scarface, The World Is Yours is a game that dares to rewrite one of cinema's most iconic endings, one of Al Pacino's greatest performances, a movie that has been imitated and referenced 1,000 times. It's rare to see a movie-based game that actually does well. It is done with love and attention to detail. Released in 2006 for PC, Xbox and PlayStation 2, back when the graphics were next-gen and not so next-gen at the same time. Hi, this is Salty Cow and welcome to my game review of Scarface, The World Is Yours. Look, there will be no spoiler alerts. After all, Scarface is a movie that is over 40 years old. If you haven't seen it by now, well, that's on you. Not exactly the most important thing anyway. Worst case, there will be references here and there in the game that most probably will fly over your head, like it did for me back years and years ago when I played the game for the very first time. In essence, Tony doesn't make it out alive in the movie. Whether deservingly or not, takes a shotgun blast in the back, becoming an addition to the fountain decor below. This isn't just another relive the movie cash grab. Oh no, only connecting point between the two in fact is the ending of the movie. Despite that, the devs at Radical Entertainment, I would guess, had the same feeling as I did when I finally, a couple of months ago, watched the movie for the first time in its entirety. In that specific moment of Tony's death, completely blinded by range to not sense the assassin behind him, the devs had the same "please Tony turn around" moment and presented their idea for the game with the following question: what if he did? What if you had the power to make Tony to turn around? The magic word? What if? Instead of Tony's untimely demise, thanks to you, the player, he gets a second chance. And the what if doesn't stop there. What if he could come back, rebuild his empire, take revenge on everyone who betrayed him? I've played my fair share of games where you start from the bottom and grind your way to the top, but very few of them do it with this much elegance or purpose. With Scarface, the climb actually means something. You're back at square one. No mansion, no cars, no money, no coke, just raw ambition and one hell of a grudge. The money, the drugs, the mansion, the empire, in this game, they're not the focus. They're just the tools, just means to an end. What takes center stage here is Tony's personal vendetta. Forget empire building, this is about revenge, and Tony's got plenty of that to dish out. He'll cut down anyone who stands between him and the man who started it all, Alejandro Solsa, the guy who sealed Tony's fate in the movie. But this time, you're in control. At first glance, Scarface, The World Is Yours might look like yet another GTA clone, all too common breed back in the day and today as well. From the time period, True Crime Streets of LA, Saints Row, Sleeping Dogs, hell, even Driver 3, which we've collectively agreed to erase from memory. But here's the thing, Scarface brings enough to the table to carve out its own bloody slice of the genre. Sure, it borrows the open world crime sandbox formula, a sprawling map with mission markers and criminal empires to build. But this game injects mechanics that not only make the game feel fresh, it also completely sells the fantasy of being Tony Montana. Let's break it down. You've got a single safe house, Tony's mansion. This is your base of operations, your upgrade hub and level up station. As you gain experience and fill in each letter of the Scarface name, unlocking access to better suppliers, stronger weapons, and more valuable assets. Speaking of assets, some are just for show, but others, like investments, have real strategic value, providing useful gameplay bonuses. Then there is the balls meter. Yes, that's actually what it's called. Once full, you can trigger blind rage mode, which is a short burst of invincibility where your vision turns red, enemies drop like flies, and health regenerates with every kill. Let's talk empire building. You can buy fronts, legit businesses in name only, spread across Miami's 4 major districts: Little Havana, Downtown, South Beach, and North Beach. These fronts become part of your distribution network. Can be also used to sell products directly for a quick cash injection. But it's not just buy and forget. You will need to defend them from rival gang attacks. Sometimes defending them builds heat. Speaking of which, heat is a major component to the world of Scarface, The World Is Yours. Both gangs and cops have their own heat. The more trouble you do and bodies you drop, the more heat will rack up. Gang heat means they will attack you on site or target your fronts, even making your negotiations easier to go sour, raking even less of a profit. Cop heat, that's a different beast entirely. The visibility meter is your early warning system. Pull out a gun in public, it starts ticking up. Fire that weapon, jumps even faster. Not too long after, the cops will start showing up. The second ring turns from white to red just as fast. When it starts filling up, it's time to cut your losses and run. Once it hits full red, the screen flashes, you're fucked. And trust me, the game means it. Your HUD disappears, the cops go spawing haywire, shoot to kill, you get increased damage, and no car can actually save you or last for long. Which brings us to the game's negotiation mechanic, used for more than just deals. Whether you're buying coke, selling it, calming down the police if they show up, or trying to intimidate gangsters, you engage in a timing-based minigame, timing the button press just right and long enough to make a full lap around. Success and biggest rewards. Timing being off, well, good luck with that. And it's not just a fluff mechanic. Negotiation impacts quantity of product bought, prices when selling, outcomes, and even how much of your money in the bank takes when you launder your dirty cash. Because, yeah, in true fashion, all your drug money is dirty until they are properly cleaned. And if you die, you lose every unlaundered dollar and every gram of product on you. This isn't a game where you want to die. Death in this game is a punishment. Now, here's a mechanic you won't find in any other open world sandbox. Tony doesn't kill civilians, ever. Just like in the movie, you aim at one and Tony refuses to shoot. No women, no kids, he lives by the code. You can try anyway, you might get lucky with a grenade launcher, but unlike with the dead gang members that drop both weapons, money, and sometimes even product if the RNG gods are with you, from civilians, you get nothing. There's no payout here. Let's talk business. You start with small-time deals. 100 grams here, a couple of hundred there. But soon, you're working your way up to major big suppliers, dropping tens of kilos into warehouses, eventually prepping for the distribution runs. This is your money-making machine. Load up your fronts with product and collect the cash. The bigger your network of owned fronts and the bigger your stock supply of product in the warehouse, the bigger your payout. But be careful, gangs are on the prowl. Fronts might get attacked mid-run. If you want to keep them, you have to get out of your own way to save them. If you die, it's all gone. The map is littered with skull icons representing gang gathering locations, which you can get rid of by simply eliminating them while in free roam. Thus, as a result, making your distribution runs a lot easier to handle, lowering the risk of being chased. As a further bonus to eliminating gang locations, you also have the chance by eliminating them completely to receive cash and coke rewards. Now, you don't build the empire alone. As you progress, you unlock certain employees, a driver, an enforcer, and an assassin. You can switch to them at any time for side missions. The driver's side mission hunts and delivers chosen cars. The enforcer takes out gang members. The assassin neutralizes high paid value targets. All three earn you money, and every successful mission with the enforcer or assassin helps lower gang or cop heat respectively, keeping that Scarface power fantasy alive as long as possible. You'll still collect money and product from fallen gang members, but only Tony can cut deals and deposit cash. Graphically, Scarface The World Is Yours hasn't aged all that gracefully. I've played both the PC and the PS2 versions, and surprisingly the PS2 version actually holds up slightly better in terms of environmental detail and lighting despite the hardware limitations. If you're on PC, there is a fan-made mod that gives the visuals a nice uplift. It sharpens textures, boosts resolution, and generally helps bring the game closer to modern standards. Now, if you're playing the PS2 version through an emulator like I do, the game runs smoothly for the most part. That said, you will do notice in the gameplay some shadow glitches. Unfortunately, there is no known fix, but the gameplay is stable enough that, like me, you'll likely just start ignoring them after a while. Compared to other GTA styles from the mid-2000s, Scarface falls somewhere in the middle. It's graphically on par with games such as The Godfather or Driver Parallel Lines, definitely sharper than 25 to Life or the first Just Cause, but if we're being honest, Saints Row 1 on Xbox 360 still takes the crown for best visuals of that era. Audio-wise, the game delivers to some extent. The soundtrack is built around mixtapes you can customize with tracks split into genres, kind of like Vice City's radio stations. The game incorporates music in a way that you can also listen to the music while you are in free roam outside of the vehicle, which I do find as a plus, as opposed to limited to listen to music only when you're in a car, like in GTA. Now, my personal gripe is the actual music included, as if someone started to compile the ideas for the soundtrack and had Tony's time period in mind, and then the second person came into the room while the first one wasn't looking and just dumped a number of tracks and artists and called it a day. Some variety is present. For example, Tony is Cuban. It makes sense to kind of include some Cuban salsa music, for example. 70s and 80s pop music would be expected, like Earth, Wind and Fire, Rick James with his songs of Super Freak and Give It To Me Baby, Shannon with Let the Music Play, the original song, Elizabeth Daily, Shake It Up, and others who were also part of the original movie soundtrack helps further with the world immersion. I guess when it came to choosing appropriate era soundtrack, the money was scarce, unlike in GTA Vice City's budget. I guess they had to improvise. It couldn't really release a game with just a number of songs less than 10 fingers of your both hands. They went for quantity rather than quality, and here's where they dropped the ball in that aspect. You get the hip-hop section, which is predominantly full of tracks dating from beyond the 90s and majority of which from the 2000s. Tell me, would you expect to hear LL Cool J, D12, or Cypress Hill, or DMX in the 80s? Or how about rock and metal wise, like Biff Naked or Rob Zombie? Personally, I didn't like the inclusion of reggae music. I have nothing against the genre, and it makes sense in a way since Miami is also a place with not a small in size Jamaican population, I can imagine. My problem here is immersion into Scarface's world, and reggae and Tony Montana's world just doesn't jive as much as you would think. Don't get me wrong, the soundtrack as a whole is not all bad. The songs that were picked are good songs in their own right. Just immersion wise, most of them don't fit the universe. That's my personal opinion. Now, let's talk about Tony's voice, because no, Al Pacino doesn't voice him, but Pacino was involved in the project and helped select his voice double, who does, I would say, a solid job. Some other actors didn't return either, like for example Paul Shanner, who played Alejandro Sosa in the movie, simply because sadly he passed away by then. Still, the voice cast is stacked. You will hear James Woods, Michael Rooker also voices your enforcer. Ice-T voices random NPCs and gangsters as well. The environments are another point of a middle ground. Scarface Miami, although small in size, is recreated with as much love and intent of fitting the movie universe. You've got Tony's mansion, you got the Babylon Club, the downtown bank included in good detail. The world is populated with traffic and pedestrians, and Tony can even interact with the latter, sparking short, sometimes hilarious conversations.
Hey, can I get your autograph?
Your eloquence aside, I must decline your suggestion.
Decline my suggestions? What the fuck?
I don't follow your line of thought.
I just want an autograph, okay? I don't want to fuck you.
I suspect we could not make harmonious music together.
Hey, what the fuck is wrong with you? Sound like you got something stuck up in your ass.
I fear we will not reach agreement on this matter.
We should get together, you know?
Mr. Montana, it's always a great pleasure to see you.
These interactions don't serve much purpose beyond a bit of an immersion and a slight boost to your balls meter, but they're a nice touch. The game has no shortage of problems. Sadly, far too late into making this review, I got the PC fan-made remastered version of Scarface, so the footage you see is from the PlayStation 2 version of emulator, due to me already having recorded those hours and hours of gameplay, and I was far too gone into the review for me to scrap everything and start over from the top. Apologies for that. If you thought it would have been better to make the review along with the remastered graphics, feel free to tell me in the comments below. Speaking of visuals, the original graphics are okay for the most part. Even for their time, they were a little inconsistent. Some character models look decent, like Tony, others feel like they were rendered in a rush. Environmental textures often give the world a flat, lifeless look, as if the buildings in the city is made of cardboard boxes. It is not a problem that is exclusive to Scarface. Almost all games of the genre had this, so I don't really judge it too harshly on that front. And then there is the original PC port. Bugs, crashes, compatibility problems galore. Trying to make the game run properly, especially if you try to play it on anything newer than Windows XP, is very often a mission impossible with a dash of pulling your fucking hair out. Hence why I use the PlayStation 2 version. Yes, the devs tried to innovate with some unique systems, but at its core, the gameplay loop gets stale very fast. Boils down to drive, kill, buy, deal, collect, launder, rinse and repeat. The empire building concepts had so much potential, but what you actually do with it is shallow. Buying assets and exotic feels like scrolling through a catalog. There is no real sense of control or strategy, just numbers and colorful pictures. Some of the items you can place them in your office in the mansion as physical objects, but that's all they are, just objects, not even interactable, like the jukebox for example. Which is a shame, and a missed opportunity as well. Mission structure quickly becomes repetitive, mostly boils down to go here, kill this guy, or guys plural, with very little variety. And outside of the main storyline, there's a heavy dose of RNG dictating mission types and rewards. Here's an example. I took on a mission as the enforcer to lower my gang heat. On the first mission objective, I had to kill 10 gang members. My reward was 12,000. Then I started another mission. This time it wanted me to kill 6 gang members. Reward? 64,000. Same enemies, virtually zero to non-existent difficulty, totally different payouts. It makes the whole system feel very random and as if the devs were cutting corners here. There is no logic to the rewards, it's just spin of the wheel and hope for the best. The lock-on targeting system is functional, but sometimes clunky, especially when driving. And speaking of driving, the cars handle like shopping carts on ice. Chases feel less like thrilling pursuits and more like you're trying to swat mosquitoes while your car hydroplanes into every building, tree and car on the block. Enemy AI is laughably bad. They run straight into the open, ignoring cover, charging you like mindless zombies, running straight towards you, stopping right out in the open, couple of feet in front of you to, I guess, make sure they don't miss. The world looks alive at a glance, but it's all surface level. NPCs exist to fill space, and aside from a few funny lines of dialogue, there's not much to interact with. The city doesn't evolve or respond meaningfully to your empire. Given you have your empire and supposedly you have so many people working under you behind the scenes, at no point in mid to late game can you automate in some fashion the whole drug empire. Tony has to do everything as if he is a coked out of his mind micromanager of sorts, dealing with opposition, doing all the deals, transporting himself the drugs and doing the collecting himself. When you think about this for more than 5 seconds, it just doesn't seem logical, does it? As if Tony has this drug empire, but he has to do everything all by himself. Even Tony starts to wear thin at times. His voice actor does a solid job, but there's only so many times I can hear him scream, "You wanna fuck with me?" over and over and over again before it starts feeling like a parody. At moments, you can't tell if the game is paying homage to Scarface or slipping into parody. So, what's the final verdict? It's one of those games where you can clearly see the vision behind it, like the devs were onto something really cool, but got rushed out the door before they could polish it up. A true unpolished gem that someone dropped in the sandbox and never dusted off. If you're a die-hard fan of Scarface, chances are you love this game. Now, if you are here looking for a solid GTA style crime sandbox, well, Scarface The World Is Yours mostly delivers, but trips on its own designer shoes along the way. There's an ambition, there is style, there is so much swearing, but also janky driving, brain dead but weirdly accurate enemies, and more copy-pasted assets than a high school PowerPoint. Still, it's worth playing at least once, not because it's perfect, but because it's Scarface. It tries things, it swings hard. Sometimes it misses, falls flat on its face, but you kinda respect the hustle. Final score, I'm willing to give him 6 out of 10. Rough but redeemable. Flawed, but it has charm. Like a B movie you kinda enjoy. If you enjoyed this and want more deep dives with a twist, hit that subscribe button. Like the video if it made you think, laugh, or at least nod once. And the bell? That's just to keep the good stuff coming your way. This is Salty Cow, signing off.